Missing children is an epidemic. In the United States alone, roughly 800,000 kids go missing each year. Many never heard from again. And nobody asks why this is happening or where they are going. The news media only reports a tiny fraction of them. Beneath haunting headlines and troubling statistics lies a dark underworld of organized kidnapping, child trafficking, and satanic cults.
People think or relate the number of children that go missing every year to the number of times we see a story on the news that a child is missing and everyone's trying to find them. That is the tiniest tip of the iceberg.
What is happening to these children? Join me as we search for the truth behind the disturbing numbers of missing children. How many children really go missing each year in America? More than the news would have you think. Reliable statistics regarding missing children are hard to come by, perhaps deliberately so. But we know officially hundreds of thousands of children go missing every year, many never heard from again.
And it is rampant. I keep using that word, but it is. People don't realize. What happens is, people think or relate the number of children that go missing every year to the number of times we see a story on the news that a child is missing and everyone's trying to find them. That is the tiniest tip of the iceberg. Hundreds of thousands of children go missing in America every year. I've rung the states, because they don't have federal figures, tell you how many cars went missing federally, but not children. They said, you've got to ring the states. I rung a load of states years ago now. I said, how many children go missing every year? How many children went missing last year? And I added the figures up. What? Never seen this on the news, hundreds of thousands. Some of them are found, some of them have explanations. Not all, nothing like.
And you know, there's 100,000 children go missing a year under 16. 100,000.
100,000 you would think would make the news all the time.
You would think so, and I guess that's the problem, just too many.
Police often write off missing children as runaways, when the exact nature of their disappearance is unclear. Even if the parents suspect otherwise, many do not have the resources to hire private investigators to locate their children. Take, for example, the case of insane clown killer John Wayne Gacy, who entertained at hospitals, orphanages, and private birthday parties. He sexually assaulted, tortured, and murdered at least 33 teenage boys and young men between 1972 and 1978, while police classified the growing numbers of missing boys as runaways.
Police were assigned to keep Gacy under 24-hour surveillance. Investigators were stunned to discover that many of the recovered items belonged to Gacy's former employees who were missing, and other young men thought to be runaways.
When most people think of kidnapping, they assume it's just some lone pervert. However, there are well-organized kidnapping rings across the country, supplying children into the underworld. They stake out locations, and sometimes even specific children in advance.
So when you see missing children on milk cartons, and you see that you go in Walmart and see that wall missing, such and such, they're not missing, they've been kidnapped. They have a crew that goes in certain parts of town, and they ask for the ages. We want them between 6 and 10. And they'll say we want them all white. And that's what they'll get. We want 3. And we want them in those age brackets.
Chauncey Glover, who just spoke with that young victim. Chauncey?
The incident happened right here along Star Peak Drive. The little boy lives right down the road. He's 11 years old and is a 6th grader here at Hill Intermediate School. He was walking here to this school Friday morning around 8 o'clock when that white work van pulled up next to him. Now, I want to show you these pictures of the van. This is the van police are searching for right now. Now, the boy says 3 Hispanic men were inside of the van and tried to lure him in. He says they had some type of dog catching net, that they were trying to put over him.
How do they find the girls that they think they want? Now, back in the day, it was hard. They had to go to the school grounds and go to these gymnasium of baseball and football games and watch the cheerleaders. That's how they did it back in the day. They sent out scouts. It's like a scout, but the guy was a perv to decide who he was going to kidnap. And they would take pictures and without their knowledge. Well, they don't have to do that no more. That was the 70s and 80s. They just go on the internet. They go through Instagram. They go, well, the best one is thus far is Instagram and Facebook. They locate her IP address, Google map it, they know where she's at. And what they'll do is send someone out there, her location, and just watch to see when she come out, and they'll get her routine down packed. They'll see she goes here, she goes there. We'll get her getting off the bus. Or do it Friday. Or they'll just pick a day. But they do their scouting on the internet.
But our private detective has been digging up a lot of information showing an overall network in the country, and that Johnny was a possible victim of that network as opposed to just a random pedophile running around Des Moines. So when I presented what we had in our case, the person that followed me in presenting was a member of the FBI, and what they had laid on the table about this size was nothing but one publication after another that had all been taken from a pedophile in a raid that the FBI conducted. And then the other interesting thing that was there on the table was a book of pictures of kids who had not yet been kidnapped.
The statement was that you could order a kid out of that book.
And the interesting thing is that from time to time when we do hear of reports of children being photographed either on a playground and or walking to and from school or just whatever, in many cases there is an abduction attempt on the same child up to 3 weeks, a month, or 2 months later.
One of the most famous kidnapping cases in America is that of Iowa paperboy Johnny Gosch, the first missing child to appear on a milk carton. At 12 years old, he was the victim of what they would later realize to be a professional kidnapping ring.
He was also involved in kidnapping.
Oh, yeah.
What knowledge do you have of that?
They'd have what they call catalog kids.
Mm-hmm.
They would basically just go out driving around looking for kids.
Uh-huh.
And they would take pictures of them and go to these wealthy, influential people and say, you know, would you be interested in this one or that one or the next one?
Mm-hmm.
And they would basically go snatch them.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what happened to Johnny Gosch.
Despite obvious evidence to the contrary, police insisted on listing Johnny as another runaway.
The cop looked at me. He said, well, has your son ever run away before? And I said, didn't you just hear me? I said, my son did not run away. Someone has taken him. I just gave you the information from all of the witnesses. The cop said, well, I'll check on this. Even after all the witnesses, after all of this information that had been given, the police chief put Johnny into the NCIC computer as a runaway.
My gosh.
It took me 4 solid months to get his classification changed in the computer.
Some of these missing children are sold into the international slave trade. For centuries, the so-called elite and ultra-powerful have preyed on the most vulnerable and precious of society. Now, more than ever, there is a global demand for children. There are auctions where such victims are sold as sex slaves to international bankers, politicians, and the very wealthy.
Give any indication of how much it costs to buy one? Because what I'm saying is that this is not going to be done cheaply, and it's not going to be done for free.
We've heard estimates of about $50,000 to $75,000 per child, depending on the features and the looks of that child, the innocence, prepubescent children. There are also, and this has been documented by a number of private investigators who've researched it, that periodically auctions take place in the United States. Different places, they move around. They don't just set up shop in one spot and publish a notice that there's going to be an auction. It's done very secretively, and they might run 10 to 20 kids at a time through an auction block. And the buyers can be from foreign countries or whatever. And then the child would never have a hope of ever getting back to his own country.
Former head of the LA FBI, Ted Gunderson, spoke about one such auction location outside of Las Vegas, where Illuminati bankers and Middle Eastern royalty come to buy American children.
What do they do with these kids that they kidnap? Paul Benassi has attended 6 auctions where they auction children. Anyway, any age from 3 and 4 all the way up to 21. They put a tag around their neck. They're in their underwear. They have a number on the tag, and people down below bid on them. The kids sell for between $15,000 to $50,000. I've even heard of one kid going for $100,000. One of the locations outside of Las Vegas, about 50 miles outside of Las Vegas, and I located it. It's an airstrip. I went up with a friend of mine and we found it. And there were airplanes there, there were campers there, and there were men who, with foreign accents. There was a police officer there, at least somebody in a uniform. These kids are auctioned off and put on the airplane, and nobody knows what's happened to them.
These trafficking rings use various control methods to keep victims enslaved. Johnny Gosh's mother, Noreen Gosh, claims the group that kidnapped her son actually branded their victims.
And one of the other things that they did to all of the victims of this particular ring, I'll call it, was brand the children.
That's right, yeah.
They used a branding iron, and they would heat it up, and the kids were branded. Someplace on their body.
Yeah.
A leg, a shoulder, a hip, it didn't matter. It would just be someplace on all of them. And the kids were told that because of that brand, no matter if they tried to change their other physical features or appearance, these people would always be able to find them.
But child trafficking rings are only the tip of the iceberg. There are even darker forces at work behind child disappearances. No doubt some children end up the victims of satanic cults. Since ancient times, children have been the preferred sacrifice of strange gods and demonic deities. The Bible warned Ammonites against making their children pass through the fires to Molech. These same arcane practices are still practiced today. According to Satanist Aleister Crowley, a male child of perfect innocence and high intellect is the most satisfactory and suitable victim for sacrifice.
12-year-old girls are vapors, more or less. They've been known to get down to 10, but they usually start at 12 or 13 and go to 25. And for the people who like to hitchhike, this is how they pick them all up. And of course the police will just tell the parents the kids run away from school. They use them for sexual and for sacrifice, human sacrifice. The LA County Sheriff's Department has a very secret undercover thing. I don't even know if you can find out if it exists, but I've talked to them. It's called the Occult Squad. They told me in '73 that they found 35 bodies of girls in Los Angeles County that year that they knew to be human sacrifice, which they listed as rape cases to keep from the public. The statistics that came in so far this year are close to 125. The year's not even over. Now that's girls that have been used for human sacrifice. And if you'll notice, there's quite a few rape cases that happened around Halloween that are in the news right now. And from what we can find out, the circumstances of each death fit human sacrifice. But you'll never hear it, that's the reason.
The body of the missing 5-year-old girl was recovered yesterday.
So the kid was killed?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Oh. The child was first reported missing from her home by her mother last Tuesday morning. On Friday, Maria Andrette McNeil was charged with first-degree kidnapping, and late Saturday, her mother, Antoinette Nicole Davis, was arrested on accusations that she prostituted her daughter.
I think a lot of these kids who are brought up by these Satanists who sacrifice these children in religious rituals.
In June 2017, Dutch banker Ronald Bernard garnered worldwide attention when he did an interview blowing the whistle on the dark and secretive world in which he was involved. In it, a clearly troubled Bernard explained how at the top levels, the world financiers are satanic and engaged in bizarre rituals, including sacrifice of children.
It was the good life. But then at some point, I was invited, which is why I'm telling you all this, to participate in sacrifices abroad. That was the breaking point. Children.
If you know someone who is missing, report it immediately. You don't have to wait 24 hours. This is the type of important information that is under attack right now, so please do your part by sharing this video before it's too late.
Inscreva-se no canal Matrix Revelada, ative as notificações e seja informado por e-mail sobre novos vídeos.